Hey everyone, this is your host MP Rose and welcome to Storm Revelation. Thank you for tuning into this channel. Just in case this is the first time that you're watching this video, Storm Revelation basically talks about the pour downs, the rains, and basically the storms of life that we go through and how does that affect us mentally and physically, and what are some steps we can take in order to go through that healing process so that we're not stuck in being our own enemy. And so today's episode is basically about a movie that I watched, and I wanted to speak specifically to my young ladies out there who have kids and that child came from a bad relationship, a relationship where you cannot no longer deal with the father of your male son. And this particular movie brought that point out. And so I wanted to kind of come on and make a comment about that, because this is something that is very real within the Black culture. And when I say Black culture, I use that term very loosely because there are different ethnicity within the Black culture. You have Black Cubans, you have Haitians, Jamaicans, Trinidadians. I mean, you have people from, and then you have Blacks from Africa. So you have Blacks here in the United States who are called African American, which I'm not really sure that term is really an accurate term, because we are descendants from Africa. But if you weren't born in Africa and you come here to the United States and you claim U.S. citizen, that's a more accurate terminology. However, America or society always has to put you into a category. So this is the category that most or everyone who's Black and who's African descent and who's here in America get placed into. Okay, so your race is Black and your ethnicity may not necessarily be African American. You may be Haitian, you may be Bahamian, you may be from Trinidad, you may be from Barbados, you could be from Africa, you could be from another country, from the UK. UKs have Blacks there as well that migrate from other parts of the world. And so the purpose of me actually explaining this is because this particular movie that's titled A Diary of a Tired Black Man, which you can watch for free on YouTube. It's called A Diary of a Tired Black Man. And the reason why I go into this whole cultural thing is because it gives you a different mindset about the culture in this particular movie, because the wife in this movie, the character that's being played as the wife, is an African American woman, meaning she was born and raised here. Her parents are born and raised here. She has multiple generations that were born and raised here. And her husband just so happened to be African. So he is from Africa and he migrated here in the US. And now I guess you can use the terminology loosely, African American, which, like I said, is not really a correct term, but that's the term that we use. And there is a huge cultural difference between people who are from the Caribbean who are Black, people who are here that were born as African Americans or who are Black in the United States, and the African culture from someone who's actually from Africa and was born there. The roots are similar, but there are a whole bunch of differences and variations when it comes to the culture itself and the ritual, the food that are eaten, the values, the morals behind family concepts, and so forth. And the list can go on and on. So the movie basically depicts that this African American woman is just angry all the time. She's just angry. And she's angry for no reason whatsoever. And the movie gets the feedback of Black men who are on the opposite side of the wrath and anger of Black women, African American women, not necessarily Caribbean, not necessarily African women from Africa, even though whenever you're dealing with any type of attachment trauma, meaning hurt and pain, shame, whatever emotions and mindset that you develop from an event that had a negative impact in your life, you're going to have that mindset and that heart posture that's glued to your soul. And to give you the definition of what a soul is, in the Hebrew context or word for soul, it actually means breath. And God put breath into us and gave us a soul. And our soul basically is what experiences the life that we live here on earth for. Okay. Now, the soul that we have, there's another Hebrew word that means psyche. And the word psyche translated in the English language means psychology. So your soul is the life that you experience through the psychological lens that you actually go through in life. And what that means is that your soul, your heart, your mind basically determines the decisions that you make based on the perceptions and based on the interpretation that you yourself end up looking at with the experiences that you actually go through. And so if you go through, say, if you've been sexually molested as a child and you're a woman and you have certain emotional components, you have certain mindsets that is glued to your life, your breath, and it will come out later on in life, and you will express those emotions and those mindsets in your behavior because of the decisions that you end up making. And so this is the effect of trauma. And in this particular movie, it doesn't reveal what trauma this woman has gone through, the married woman, but obviously she's gone through unresolved trauma that makes her angry and bitter and just doesn't really have a real value for herself and no self-respect for herself. Because if you don't respect yourself, then there's no way that you can respect someone else. If you don't love yourself, then you're not going to be able to love someone else. That's why it's very important that no matter who you are, man, woman, child, you need to go through that healing process. You need to be able to reflect. You need to be able to reveal. And one of the biggest things that's not biblical concept at all, and I'm going to do a whole different video based on this topic, is the Black community and culture, period, believes that what's done in this house stays in this house. And there's a lot of secrecy about things that we go through that we're not allowed to talk about. You know, if a child is molested, the parent may not believe them for whatever reason, for numbers of reasons. It might be by a step parent, it might be by a family member, it might be by a close friend of the family. But usually a large percentage of trauma that we go through, we experience that trauma and that hurt and that pain, that shame, whatever emotion you're attaching to it, from someone that we know, from someone that we are building a relationship with. Now, it doesn't matter what type of relationship that relationship might be, but nevertheless, it's from someone that we are getting to know, or someone who we have known, or someone that is connected to us family-wise, or in the context of us, that person being familiar to us. And the trauma that we go through bleeds out into all aspects of our lives, especially the ladies. And I'm going to do a separate video about how not having a father figure in the home affects our young ladies, and why we have so much women that don't necessarily have standards and values, and they think that they need to sleep with a man in order to gain self-worth. And even though they know that man might not be good for them, even though they know that that relationship is a toxic relationship, they still remain in it because they'd rather stay in that normalcy, which is abnormal, but because it's a continuous pattern, that pattern develops into a normal rhythm of life, and that person continues to engage and make bad decisions that end up with the same results. The results are the same. You might be dating a Johnny now, or you might be dating a Tom, but the characteristics of the person that you're dating are the same. They're the same. They're the same class of men that you are picking as a woman. And we need to be able to recognize that what's done in this house does not stay in this house, because that is not a biblical concept. And the reason why people created that concept is to protect the family name and honor, and not to bring shame to, the family, or not to bring shame to whatever the situation is, and also not to deal with it. It's a way of denial as well, because if you don't admit it happened, then you can make yourself believe that it never did. And so you'll never actually process what happened, so that you can go through it in order for you to be able to get the breakthrough that you need, and the healing that you need, and the restoration that you need, so that you can break the cycles that you've been participating in your life. And so in this movie, what I want to talk about is one particular scene about a mother who disrespects her son because of the trauma and the hurt that she experienced with the child's father. And now she does not have a relationship with the father, and she's taking out her hurt, her pain, her guilt, her anger out on her male son. And ladies, I have a son, and I would never speak down to or disrespect my son, because what we need to understand is that men don't view love in the same way that women do. For a man, respect, 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 is what a man translates into love. And a woman needs to be able to show a man that she respects him. And so let's get into what the word respect actually means. And I'm also going to give you Bible verses on what respect actually is as well, and where the root word comes from, and the Greek and Hebrew form. Now, I'm looking at a thesaurus, a dictionary, Webster's definition of respect. And this is the unabridged, so this is the long version, not the shortcut version. So respect is an action, so it's a verb, and it means to take notice of, to regard with special attention, to regard as worthy of special consideration, hence to care for. So a man sees respect as you loving him, as you caring for him. And another verb word is, or definition for respect, is to consider worthy of esteem, to regard with honor. So when you show respect to a man, you're honoring him. You are showing him that he is worthy. You are demonstrating to him that he is worthy of special consideration. You are letting him know that he is valuable to you. So, as a woman, when you disrespect and speak down to and degrade your son is going to end up doing the same thing to women. Why? Because you, as the mother, he's looking for you to show him how to love a woman. So based on the respect that you give to him, is going to be the respect and the love that he shows towards a woman. And if you're speaking down to your son and you're disrespecting him and you're not honoring him and you're not showing him the esteem and the worthiness that he deserves, then he's going to interpret that love as disrespect. And in return, he's going to disrespect women. He's going to be a womanizer. He's going to hate women. And then you're going to think back and you're going to say, well, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And then he's going to even not respect you because of the fact that you spoke negatively into his life. You spoke down at him. You didn't speak to him. You didn't uplift him. You didn't honor him. And so as women, we need to not make that mistake. We need to not allow the hurt and pain of a relationship that ends up with a male child. We need to not take out our frustration, our anger, our hurt, our pain on that child because of the sin of the father. Okay? You are not going to like the results in the end. Women complain that men are dogs. Women complain that men don't know how to treat women, but that's because the women who are raising them aren't teaching them. And it starts with respect. And so let's go into a Bible verse that lets you know exactly what that is, because the Bible gives us everything that we need to know, and everything that we need to succeed in life is in a biblical context. And if you can't find it, that means that whatever it is that you're going through, you're creating it in your mind if it's not in the Bible. Okay? Because God's word was from the very beginning. Even before we existed, God's word was and will be once there's no life anymore, and once the new coming actually comes. And so we need to be able to understand that a woman, and the Bible's very clear about that. The Bible doesn't tell a woman to love her husband. The Bible tells a woman to respect her husband, not to love her husband. Why? Because God created men and women differently. God created our needs differently. And this is the need that you need to instill in your male son. If you do have a male son that's from a bad relationship, your child did not ask to come into this world. You made bad decisions. And so that resulted in a child, whether it's a male or a female. But this particular video are about male child, male kids, male teens. And so as mothers, we need to be able to speak life, because there is power in the tongue, and the Bible tells us that. And that saying that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, whoever wrote that is a lie. Okay? Because words do hurt. And we know that words hurt, because if not, we wouldn't have trauma. If not, we wouldn't be defensive. If not, we wouldn't be in our feelings all the time if words didn't hurt. If not, then we would all get along, and there wouldn't be racism, there wouldn't be hatred, there wouldn't be conflicts and beefs and everything else going on. It's because there is power in what we say. The negative things we say about people affects them. It impacts them. So stop lying to ourselves and stop letting society tell us that there's no power in the words that we speak, because there is. And this, in the biblical context, tells you that, because it tells you that there's life or death in the power of the tongue. And that has to do with what you say. And the text that I want to read that relates to the Bible telling a wife to respect her husband and not love her husband. And this goes back to what I just recently said, that a man translates respect into love. So a man knows that you love him by respecting him. Okay? And that's why respect is a very big thing when it comes to men. Okay? A man will defend his honor. He will not tolerate disrespect in any way, shape, or form. And this is the reason why. All right? And so let's look at Ephesians chapter 5, verse 33. And I'm going to read it. And it says, however, let each one of you love his wife as himself. And this is the husband. And this is the part that refers to the wife. And let the wife see that she respects her husband. I'm going to say that again. This is in Ephesians 5, verse 33. Ephesians 5, chapter 5, verse 33. And it says, however, let each one of you love his wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. Now notice in the text, it says, let each one of you love his wife as himself. Love his wife as himself. So a man cannot love his wife if a mother never showed him the respect that he needed in order to love his wife. And you see how that context goes back to the woman? Because the women or the parent is the one who is rearing the child. And the Bible says you should raise your child in the way that he should go. That's what it says, that you should raise your child in the way that he should go, and he shall not depart from that way. So as a woman, if you're raising your son with respect, and what did we say respect was? What was the definition that we said respect was? We said the definition was to take notice of, to regard with special attention, to regard as worthy of special consideration, hence to care for, to consider worthy of esteem, to regard with honor. And so the Bible verse that we just read in Ephesians says, each one of you to love his wife as himself. If a mother never showed a child what love is, a husband cannot show his wife what love is, because a husband needs to respect and love himself before that can be bridged out and externalized to his wife. And so if the wife does not respect the husband and does not respect the man that's going to become a husband, then that man is not going to respect and love his wife like himself. The Bible says that a man shall love his wife like himself. But in order for that to happen, the man has to be taught to do that. Because every man is going to leave his mother, his father, to be married. That's the biblical concept, and that's what it's supposed to be. But of course, society now does hookups and friends with benefits, and they create all these soul ties, and they wonder why we're jacked up, and they wonder why we're all damaged goods. It's because we go about things the complete wrong way. We make wrong decisions because we're not taught how to make the right ones. And so this is what Storm Revelation is all about. Teaching you how to correct the wrongs that you've been doing. And so if you are a mother who have been in a bad relationship, or who is in a current bad relationship and you have a son, please respect that son, because that son is going to become a husband later on. And the only way that that son as a husband can love his wife is if he loves himself. And the only way he can love himself is by what? By the mother respecting him. Because the word respect is to what? To show worthy esteem. What does esteem mean? Esteem has to do with what you think of yourself. So if you're not showing him to think highly of himself, if you're not regarding him with honor, if you're not caring for him through the concept of respect, then you can't expect anything positive out of him. How can you, when all you've done is spoken death and negativity into his life? And the reason why this concept is so important is because the men that we're dating right now and the men that exist in our society right now is a direct reflection of us mothers, is a direct reflection of how the woman conducted herself with that child in reference to showing him respect that he internalizes as love and that he's able to externalize to his future wife and to his future partner. Okay? And so let's look at another biblical verse in 1 Peter chapter 3, and this verse is probably verse 1 through 2. And it says, likewise, wives, be subject to your own husbands, so that even if some do not obey the word, they may be won without a word by the conduct of their wives, when they see the respectful and pure conduct. I'm going to repeat that again because this is a very powerful biblical statement that relates to Ephesians 5 about a mother being able to speak life and show her son respect so that he can become the husband that he needs to be for that future lady. And the reflection of his love is dependent upon your love that you showed him growing up. And I'm going to read this passage again. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 1 through 2. It says, likewise, wives, be subject to your own husbands, so that even if some do not obey the word, so that means that even if your husband is not a Christian and does not follow Jesus, wives, they may be won without a word by the conduct of their wives. And when they see your perfect respect and pure conduct. So that passage is saying, even if your husband is not a follower, even if your husband is not a Christian and you are a woman of God and he's not following the word, but because you respect him and because you act and behave like a woman of God, you will end up influencing him to be the best that he can be. And you will end up even influencing him to what? To follow God as well. And so that passage is such a powerful passage, because when it says that they may be won without a word by the conduct of their wives, that's the same thing you're instilling in your son. Your conduct and how you treat him and behave towards him and the respect that you show him is going to be shown later on in life when he starts to conduct himself in the same way that you conducted yourself towards him. And so if you are a mother, and it doesn't matter at this point, even though the video was being referenced to the diary of a tired Black man, this video is for any woman who has gone through hurt, who has gone through pain, and has gone through a terrible relationship with a man. And this man had a mother who didn't respect him. This man had a mother who spoke death into his life, who gave him a negative esteem, who made him feel unworthy and insecure. That is the result of the man that you ended up with. And now you are doing the same thing to your son that your son's father's mother did to him. And so this is the time where you need to break that cycle. And this is what Storm Revelation is all about: breaking cycles and engaging in a healthier pattern so that you can end up developing a new rhythm of life. And so ladies, I have a son, and I do not treat my son based on my experience with his father at all. So if you want a man, if you want to raise a son into a man, you need to show him respect. You need to conduct yourself in a manner that you display that to him so that you can win him over. And by doing that, he's going to be able to be released into the world, and he's going to be exactly what God has called him to be. Because in Ephesians, it says, let each one of you love his wife as himself. A man cannot love himself if his mother didn't show him how to. And the way a mother does that is by respect. And how do you respect your son? By honoring him, by speaking positivity into his life, by giving him worthiness, by giving him secure emotional attachments, by letting him know that he is worthy, that he is worth special attention. And ultimately, all of that translates to, I care for you deeply. I love you. And so if a man does not love himself, he cannot love you. So we as women are the ones who are raising these men to have negative mindsets and negativity. And we complain about men, but we're the one raising them. So we can't complain about the product that results from what we do. And today is the day that you need to break that cycle. So if you found this video very helpful, go ahead and comment, hit that like button, and subscribe so that next time any videos come out, you'll be the first one to get notified so you can go ahead and check it out. So thank you very much for joining me and this very, very hot topic, because this is something that affects our Black men. And we need to be able to raise our boys with the respect that they need so that they themselves can love the women who come into their lives. And that is a byproduct of how they were raised by their mothers. And so please, women, go back, read your biblical verses. The biblical verses that we talked about was Ephesians 5, verse 33. And the second verse was 1 Peter 3, 1 through 7. And the next short video that I'm going to do is going to be very, very short. And it's basically going to talk about the Hebrew context of what respect is, and some biblical verses that you can refer to that refers to that Hebrew term. And so thank you again for joining. Have a blessed one. Bye.